Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested.
And Frank from Tested.
And we are super excited to be here in Frank's shop to learn about your work on a costume project.
Yeah, every year I get to work on something cool for E3, and this year I'm building costumes for the game For Honor for their E3 stuff.
Now what's cool about this is that you're building 3 different characters. They're like inspired by historical characters, but they're things that people should like be familiar with. You know, a samurai, a knight, and like a stylized Viking.
Yep.
Cool. So 3 costumes, you're building it in time for E3, unveiling it there.
Yep.
What's the whole process of making something from a video game?
Well, the first thing you have to do is kind of break down how you're going to build this stuff. There's obviously a lot of cut and sew on this stuff because there's a lot of fabrics. You have to figure out what you're going to build out of leather, what you're going to build out of foam. We're building stuff out of Warbler. The schedule's pretty quick, so we're going to build really fast. We're not going to be making a lot of molds and castings like I've done in the past, so it's all just building.
Now, in terms of reference, like the game designers and the artists, they do concept art, right? You know, there's going to be concept art that they give to the game modelers, and there's in-game models and textures. For you, when you're building a costume, what's the best reference?
Well, this is another one of those circumstances where I'm building the project before everything is completely developed. So I got a couple of like brand new designs of the Viking like right before we started building. So a lot of times it's just conceptual artwork, and I have to kind of riff and kind of interpret that stuff as best I can.
Right. So if you look at, for example, the samurai character, they've given you some different positions, some close-up looks, and you take a look at that, and in your head you go, okay, I know I have to make a helmet. I know I have to make a mask. Then that's that's sculpting right away.
Yeah. And then his pants, we have to make a fabric, and we have to custom print that fabric so that it has the right pattern. You know, there's all these plates on his armor that look like they're kind of lacquered wood. So we have to build those plates. What are they going to be out of? Where do the shoulder plates attach? Like, there's a ton of things to figure out. And with it, being a quick build, it's fun.
So talk about some of these materials, because you mentioned a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So what's some things we have in front of us?
Well, these are the patterns. So the first person that I called on this was Evil Ted Smith. And I said, Ted, I need helmets. You're good at helmets. And so Ted cranked out, these are his patterns for the helmets, and he blasted these out and he built all the helmets in like a week and a half.
Wow. And so his process for designing these patterns, is he putting on top of a mannequin? Like, how does this come about, this piece?
Ted kind of freeforms this stuff. He kind of knows how things kind of shape and how they go together. He has some kind of already established patterns that he just kind of riffs off of, and then some of this stuff, like we would make like 2 or 3 test pieces until it was like just perfect.
And then these patterns then get transferred to what type of material?
A lot of this stuff was just foam. It's just whether it's floor mats or L300 or L400, like whatever foam happened to be in the right thickness and density that we needed.
Right, and then the foam, because it's so malleable, gives us a lot of wiggle room. So when you're putting those seams together, then you can cut and you can just make it. If you're not molding and casting it, it's going to be your final piece.
Yes.
All right, and then the fabrics. You're sourcing fabrics. Do you have a repository in your head of what you think looks good, what you know will fit well?
Well, I called a really great costume builder, Lorelei, and she went out and found all these swatches of these different fabrics and said, what do you think about pants? And she had like 4 or 5 swatches. Pick that one. What do you think about this shirt? That one. And then she just kind of went out, bought the whole bolt, and then started putting them together.
Wow, and then so like you have a bolt of fabric unraveled here, and it's a pattern on top of it. Is this just a stencil? Yeah,
so on the samurai's pants, he has this kind of pattern, which it's kind of like a faded white, off-whitish kind of pattern. So what I did is, the designers for the game sent me that pattern, and I threw it on my laser and cut it out, so that way I just line the thing up, and I'm just using spray paint.
So simple.
That's it. It doesn't have to be anything super complicated or crazy. We're using the technology to make it easy and to make the pattern replicatable. And because it's kind of got a worn look to it, it doesn't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to be screen printed, or it doesn't have to be, anything like digitally, whatever.
And the choosing of the fabric, having that nice texture, so it's already it comes with that
adds
already.
Layers, adds, some fidelity. It'll make it like hang, and it'll just look really nice.
Do you find that when you're combining a bunch of different materials, that helps the project look more authentic as a whole?
You have to layer textures and layer paint, and it's just like when we're painting model kits and stuff like that. Like, you don't just spray it all one color. You have to like do washes, and once you get all these things to like kind of get into the cracks, like all the different patterns and textures, it comes to life.
Well, you've been working on this project. It's still in progress for a little while now, but there are some finished pieces that we can check out. Can we check those out?
Yes.
All right. Whoa, Frank, this stuff looks awesome.
Everybody's been jamming away for weeks, so
Holy moly.
a lot of stuff done.
The pattern you showed me earlier of the samurai helmet, this is it. This is that finished samurai helmet.
Yep.
Wow, so this is just foam, and if I look inside, I can totally see the texture of the floor mat foam that you use for other projects. And then it's just, how's it glued together?
It's glued with drop or barge or any of those contact adhesives. And then Doug Stewart painted most of the stuff.
That looks great. And then what about the face mask here?
That's the only piece that I sculpted and molded so far. I just kind of blocked it out real quick, and this is cast up in like Simpact 80 or something like that. Just a kind of a semi-rigid, flexible rubber. It's a urethane from Smooth On.
What's this paint job on here? I love this matte finish.
That's the natural color it came out. I just mixed some pigment, so I tinted the material. So we'll do some washes on that to just kind of weather it a little bit. That's like fresh out of the mold pretty much.
Very cool. And then for the knight helmet,
yep.
How many pieces? This doesn't look too many.
No, I think it's only like 3 or 4 pieces of foam. Again, this is another one of those that Ted just kind of freestyled the form and banged it out real quick.
I mean, it totally perfectly evokes the knight, right? Mm-hmm. And the paint job does so much that like it, painted blue and white and then worn off. Did you use that similar paint, the weathering technique we did for the space armor costume?
No, Doug Stewart did this. I think he didn't use the toothpaste because he was brushing this paint on. When we did the toothpaste stuff, it works good if you're spraying it.
As a mask.
Yeah. But the latex, it kind of sets and then you can brush over top of it and then just roll it off.
And even the white looks like it's weathered, like it looks stained.
But that's not, he painted it white and then he also stained on top of it. There's a lot of layers of color to get like this kind of a look.
And then let's talk about the armor itself, because between these 3 suits of armor, you're simulating a lot of different materials.
Yeah.
The samurai armor, it looks like there's a lot of faux wood.
Yeah, these were all made by Nick Bonamy. He did these all out of foam. Like these are, again, just foam mats.
So is this like just a hot knife cutting into the foam and...
And a Dremel. You could use a hot knife or a Dremel, all kinds of stuff. Like, anything that can carve or sand down foam, do it. And then he painted all this stuff. And then these little metallic looking plates that are on the end, these are all Warbler.
So talk about Warbler, because it's not something we've explained before on site.
I haven't done any builds with Warbler before. So
this is the first one?
This is the first build that I'm using Warbler.
All right, so how does it work?
So it's a thermoplastic, and it has some kind of a filler in it. So I think it's like wood pulp or something like that. So you heat it up with a heat gun, and you can form it over things, or you could bend it or whatever.
So previously you would use foam, but foam you can't get to shape.
Well, you can, but these are hard parts.
Ah, okay.
And I can also get them thinner, and they're a lot more rigid. If this was out of foam, it would be a little bit more flexible. So we want to have it a little bit harder for the hard parts.
So you're considering how they wear on the person wearing the costume.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the wood planks are thicker, so use foam. If we made a Warbler piece that thick, it's heavy. But for this stuff, it's thin and it needs to be rigid, so that just works best.
Now, because they're also going to go on 3 actors wearing these costumes, did you have to just get their measurements and design these for them?
Well, we are making them kind of to fit the actors that are going to be at E3, but they may use these at other trade shows and other events, so we're kind of making them as best we can to fit a range. So it's, we're kind of doing our best.
This is so cool. What's next? What do you have to finish to get to the deadline?
Well, we just got our chainmail in. I ordered this off of Amazon for real cheap. Like, I would have thought the chainmail would be expensive. This was like $60. And then we just bought a bunch of hides of leather and started cutting it to make all the belts and strapping that everybody needs to have. And then as soon as costumes come together, we're just gonna put all the stuff together.
Right, you're using some hardware that's modern day, but you're gonna tie it all together to look like it's of that era.
Yeah.
That final finishing process, do you go through one pass just to make it tie it all together?
Well, probably the final pass is going to be like aging and dyeing. Like, you have to make everything look like it's been worn. You can't put brand new fabrics on people and like brand new stuff. We've gone through a lot of work to try and make the stuff look a little bit lived in. So same thing with all the fabrics.
What I love is that all these techniques you're talking about, whether it's working with foam, the Warbler, even the cut and sew stuff, it's all really accessible.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is terribly complex, but the people you're working with have a lot of experience, and you have a lot of experience. And on this kind of deadline, that's how you're able to bring it all together and make something look stage ready.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Can't wait to check it out at E3.
So let's go look.
Boom, and here we are at E3 2016.
All
Frank,
done.
You did it. You finished the armor.
We finished it.
All right, so let's recap because we have a lot of documented footage and coverage about your fabrication.
Yeah.
I want to know, since we saw you last, how you got these completed. Because those 3 pieces of armor,
Yeah.
3 completely different styles,
Yeah.
using different fabrics, mixed media, and also you were experimenting with new materials, Warbler.
Well, in the past, I've been doing space armor, so things get 3D printed, and it's, you know, things have been very like technologically forward. But I wanted to go back to like kind of cosplay roots and build the stuff out of like, you know, foam mats and Warbler. And I haven't really worked a ton with the Warbler before, and I love it. There's a bunch of different kinds. There's the brown one and the black one and Wonderflex, and we played with all of them, and we ended up liking the black Warbler best. It holds paint really great. We experimented with a lot of different ways to get paint to stick to it well. Ended up finding that Bulldog and a paint called Hilux are like really grab it well. And then just like tying all the different materials together. Like on this guy, these chest plates are foam, and then a lot of these metal parts are the Warbler. You know, like this one's foam and then this one's Warbler, and then making those paint colors match. And then same thing on the helmet, like this is foam right here, and then this emblem is Warbler. So mix and matching like everything, but painting them to all look the same.
Can you talk a little bit about the different like processes when you're working with foam versus something like Warbler? Foam, you're carving, you're heating and bending the shape. Warbler, you're also bending.
It's the same thing. It's like once you get like a handful of skills in your wheel set, you know, it's how to make a pattern and how to like make it fold and curve. Like you just apply to the different material, and I think it's the same thing.
You're turning 2D patterns
Yeah.
into 3-dimensional shapes.
Warbler is a little bit easier to get things to kind of like heat up and curve over stuff, where with foam, it's a little bit more work and you gotta like cut darts into it. But Warbler, like we really got some crazy curves out of some parts.
So you don't necessarily have to cut seams in there to bend.
Yeah, you can
cut
just heat it and
pieces
just
out.
like kind of stretch, almost vacuum form it over something.
A buck.
Yeah, I actually want to try vacuum forming Warbler, and I want to try cutting it on the laser next. So that's got my mind thinking.
Now you work with a bunch of teammates on this, fabricators who have experience in the special effects business,
I had an
in
excellent
cosplay.
crew, and everybody's like top of their craft on this stuff. And one of the cool things I just found out today is that Ubisoft is going to let us give out patterns. As soon as I can scan all the parts for the helmets and pretty much anything else, I'm going to scan those things and we'll put them up on Tested, and people can build their own parts.
I think the helmets stand out amazingly. Like they're completely different helmets. The Viking, I love that broken that horn piece right there.
That's just foam.
That's foam.
That's just foam that we took on the belt sander and then just carved it up a little bit. And the thing that really ties everything together is the paint job, the paint and weathering of everything.
Like the knight, that mask there, that looks like rusted steel.
Yeah, Doug Stewart painted most of these things. Doug Stewart and Nick Bonamy painted most of these things. And you know, Doug is a veteran in the movie industry, worked on, you know, the new Batman vs Superman movie, worked on the new X-Men movie. Like, he knows how to weather costumes and make things look lived in and real. And he just took brand new fabrics and made them look all dirty and torn up.
Wow, how movable is this supposed to be? Is it?
We're gonna start dancing.
And then weapons. You also have like a battle axe.
Well,
here.
these guys have swords, and swords are kind of a tricky thing when you get into conventions and on the floor. And to make a thin-bladed weapon, like, always looks kind of hokey.
Yeah.
You know, if you do it out of foam. So we really just went for the axe, and Bill Duran made this.
Oh, Bill.
Yeah. So
punish props.
I think Bill shot some video. If you know, he's going to do a write-up or something. So we'll have some info on how Bill made this.
Yeah, I love the leather wrap here, even the stitching there.
Yeah.
Fabricating foam weapons, something we've covered on Tested. It's just like a PVC pipe in here, but wrapping foam around it, you get to simulate the wood and burning in these designs.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, and it's lightweight.
Yeah.
Perfect
You
for
know,
conventions.
with burning in designs in the foam, on the Samurai's shoes, those are just Crocs wrapped in foam, and then we burned in all that stitching.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Frank, for sharing with us your builds of these 3 armor pieces for the game
Yeah.
For Honor. Now, we have more videos with Frank at his shop, with Evil Ted,
Yeah.
and with Doug Stewart, talking about the painting process, the fabrication of the helmet, so you guys can actually build your own cosplay armors for whatever thing you want to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to put up these patterns on the site. So stay tuned for that. Until then, thanks a lot, and enjoy your break.
Yeah, it was fun.